Hey guys, it's Mollie with Design Loves Detail, and today we are talking about hiring a designer, what to look for, how to get the right person for the job, and all of my tips there to help you get someone good for your project. Stay tuned. So many requests for this topic. We asked the question in community recently, if you guys would hire a designer and that sort of thing. Seems like people were wondering what my advice would be for hiring a designer. That being said, there are definitely a lot of factors to take into consideration. I'll kind of just give you my rundown on what to look for and things to be thinking of when you're in this position. If you want to hire somebody for a project, you first want to be thinking about the scope of work. Is this going to be a new build? Are you remodeling? Are you just decorating a space? Because who you look for will depend on how big of a project it is, and different places, for instance, focus on different aspects of home design. So you might have a full service interior design firm and they do everything from the ground up. If you're like building a home or remodeling, that means that they would help in selecting all of the finishes for the home, the flooring, the paint colors, the cabinetry, all of those factors, as well as usually also the finishing touches like the decorating and that sort of stuff too, that's after the project is built. Or if you are just like, you have a room and it's not quite finished, you need someone to help doing the decor and furniture, that type of stuff, you might want to look for an interior decorator versus an interior designer, because design firms are going to be more that full service thing, usually larger projects, and then you can find someone that's more of a decorator to do the finishing touches on a space. So I was kind of a weird niche when I did design, and weird in a good way, if I do say so myself. Well, at least that's what I heard from clients, right? Was that a lot of them like, okay, I've been through so many designers and like, you're the only person that has offered this. And so I kind of want to talk about that, because you might be able to find somebody like what I do, but these are the things that you'd need to look for. I would charge hourly, but I would save people money on finding products for good prices. So it kind of, a lot of times would, like, the investment in me would save them money in the long run, because a lot of times you'll find, especially with larger firms, they don't have the time to like hunt out good deals. So they are going to go to their, staple brands. And this is okay. It's not like this is a bad way to do business. It's just, this is the most common thing I saw, and that what I heard from clients was the thing that they liked about me versus other designers, was that they would go and just, pick from a catalog, this, and this, which can be time efficient, but also isn't going to give you the best bang for your buck when it comes to investing in the furniture pieces and that sort of thing. Because usually designers use higher end lines, which can be good because they have access to lines that you might not, but also a lot of times they do have their markup. And so this is a catch-22. Sometimes they can save you money depending. Sometimes, for instance, they'll get 50% off and they'll only mark it up 25%. So you're still saving 25% off retail. So that can be good. But these are the kind of questions you would ask. How do they charge for products they order? And what, type of lines do they order from? What price point, what quality? Because for me, it was always about finding that kind of mid-range point where the price is still approachable and reasonable, but also the quality is there. Not like the highest end stuff, but that mid-range, like Universal Furniture is kind of like one that I really like, because it's like they have like heavy dressers and things like that, but they're still like, you can still get it for like maybe $1,200 to $1,500 and not thousands of dollars, but it's nice, heavy quality stuff. So that's like an example. So definitely number one, I would be saying, think about your project scope if you want a decorator versus a designer. Number two, how do they charge for product? How do they charge for their time? That's the other one. So like I said, I charged hourly, and there can be benefits if you have a big project and someone will take on the project in a lump sum, like they'll give you a project cost. Sometimes that can be good. However, I have seen designers like take on a project and they bid it by the whole project rather than hourly. And once that project, if it gets taking too long and it's, it's like getting crazy, I have seen this happen where they essentially quit on the project. So I don't know, that's a tricky one. For me, like, it makes sense. Like, I put in this much time, it costs you this much. And you can discuss, if you do hourly, you can discuss how many hours you want per month or per week or whatever. Like, I'm aiming to just be spending this much. Is this something you can do? I think a lot of the questions that should be asked are really around the pricing and everything, because I've seen that be a challenge, that people can have a totally different view of what to expect versus what the designer is expecting. So So really discussing how things are charged, how they do the product and that sort of stuff up front, getting all of that information is just so important so that you know roughly what the project cost would be. And I would usually give my clients, like when I would go see the project, I would do a consultation. Like this is years ago, but I would charge $250 for a consultation. So people probably charge even more now. And some people might charge less. When I was new, I charged like $50 an hour. But by the end, I was charging like, I think it was $250 for the initial consult and then it was $200 an hour after that. So that's a ton, but that was years ago. So now with inflation and all this stuff, I don't even know exactly what the going rate is, but I had to keep raising mine because there was a lot of demand because I had social media presence. I had more people that wanted my service than I could even help, because when you work hourly, you can only do so much in a day. So I just kind of kept raising it thinking, are they going to keep paying this? Like, and yeah, you know, people did. And I think it's because they saw the savings in when I would find deals for them in the products. So, you know, it kind of shook out. But like I said, there's different ways to bill and every design firm does it a little bit different. Consultations, you know, might be something to do, even if you do have to pay for them. Every once in a while, someone would be like, oh, I just thought you could do a free consultation. And of course, for me, it wasn't worth it. It didn't make sense for me to do a free consultation when I had a bunch of people willing to pay for it. So that's what's hard too, is a supply and demand right now. A lot of the industries, home industries especially, we've seen it with our new build, they have more work than they can do, which means they can charge what they want. It's very tricky. And I know different areas in the country are probably different. There's probably places that aren't in such a spot of, you know, kind of like a buyer's versus seller's market, but with the trades. So there are probably places out there that have more affordable designers and things. Maybe there's an oversaturation in the market in some places, and that would be really to your advantage to kind of shop around and see. But you can also find somebody who seems to have good style and good design ability that might be newer, because when I first started out, you know, I definitely charged a lot less, like I was saying, and I still was able to deliver a good product. Definitely that is something to, like, I wouldn't rule people out because they don't have a huge portfolio. If you've seen some of their work or their style, do also make sure it's their work. There are a lot of designers out there, and this is actually like one of the things that frustrates the crap out of me, is there's so many accounts on Instagram that sounds like a designer account, and then her whole account is pictures of other people's work. That happens to me all the time. Like I would have people sometimes posting like 5 or 6 of my images onto their page, and I'm like, no, because then it looks like my work is their work, and then all the others weren't their work either. But yeah, you can pick a beautiful design. Okay, cool. Like, so can we all on Pinterest, right? But just be careful of that too. Like if you're looking on Instagram, and even if it's a design named account, make sure it's really their work. And I think when you talk to people, you could even talk to them on the phone or something, ask the questions. I think you get a feel for how they would be to work with, see how transparent they are. That's one thing I always really tried to do with my clientele, just being really straightforward with everything that I could. So it just didn't ever feel like there was anything I was withholding from them or trying to, you know, like, here's how we do this. And personality matters a ton, because you will probably work with this designer a lot. If you're doing a larger project, definitely make sure you like them. That's just like obviously common sense. But if you meet with them and they're annoying to you, or they don't seem like they're getting your vision or understanding you, no, don't commit to that. No. Like, shop around until you find somebody that like you click with, because even though it's more of a professional relationship, they don't have to be your best friend. You definitely want it to be like a good situation, because you will have a lot to communicate, a lot of back and forth. And that's another point I think to look at. Check how good they are. If you do a consultation or a phone call, how good are they at listening to you? How good are they at understanding what you want? If you don't totally know what you want, then that works to pick a designer that just has a style you love. But if you really have a vision, you just aren't able to kind of execute that, then you will want them to hear you out and to bring those important details into, you know, what they create for you. Definitely, I think it's important to like their style, but also, will they be able to bring in the things that are unique to you that you want in the home? Some of that's practicality. Some of that is function over form. How much weight do you put on each of those? Is it more important for you aesthetically, or do you really just need like the function and then the aesthetic is kind of secondary? Definitely, I always tried to bring a balance of that, because one thing I have seen in the industry a lot of times is designers prioritizing that form over function too much. So that's something definitely to look at. And a lot of times, because a lot of the higher end products really are gorgeous. Like if you went to McGee & Co right now, you could buy anything on their site, right? And it would be designer and beautiful because it's already curated. There are places like that where when they use high-end products for everything, it really has almost no choice but to turn out great, because it's you know. So I've seen that too with designers where they rely on almost other brands to curate the product, and you lose that, what I like to do with the splurges and the saves, right? Where you have a couple splurges maybe, but you also have these products that, hey, this is TJ Maxx, but it looks high end. And so some designers relying on a brand or something where they're buying all these top end pieces can really cost you a ton of money. So I think kind of asking those questions too about, you know, what's your philosophy on blending higher end and middle range product or affordable pieces versus designer. Definitely just, I kind of hit on that earlier, but just kind of reiterating that, how important that can be to really have somebody that has an eye for finding pieces that look really good but aren't super expensive. That will really matter in the long run, especially if you're doing a whole house. So kind of the key things to be thinking about: scope of work, designer versus decorator, your budget for the project, your kind of the personality of the person, style. Do the styles mesh? Do you like their style? And how well do they listen to you? Those are probably my top things for selecting a designer and really finding what works best for you. I think that's it. I think that's most of my design advice if you're going to hire somebody to really look at. And I've heard and seen a lot of people be disappointed in hiring a designer, that it just wasn't what they had expected. So just really discussing your expectations and what you want to see as an end result, and the time frame to how quickly can they work, how quickly can they work you into their schedule. Just really trying to nail down all of those things up front is going to help you a ton as you move forward in the project. And I will of course continue to bring you as much advice as I can here on YouTube if you decide to go at your project alone, because sometimes, you know, I think that can be the best way to go, is do it yourself with kind of some guidance on the side. But thank you guys so much for watching. Check me out on Instagram at Design Loves Detail, or over on our website designlovesdetail.com, where we've shared tons of projects, lots of advice over there too. And subscribe, hit that bell to be notified of future videos here on YouTube, and I will see you next time.